Welcome back, guys. We're here again with Mr. Matt, and we'll be talking about our next Prometheus product here, the Colored Spring series that we've had for a while now, but everyone's loved the MS or the non-linear spring series for many years now, and we decided to color them. So it's the same great product, but now it's colored. But what are some things that you have to say about these springs?
Well, anybody that has built an AEG or customized the power of an AEG has purchased a spring before. And I can count on like so many times when I've removed a spring and put it in my toolbox and then want to come back to it and not remember which spring is which stiffness. And I might have 4 or 5 springs and not remember which one was the FPS that I was looking for. And so there has always been a desire by airsofters to have some way to identify springs. I've seen people put some tape and a label or, change the package. But really color coding is the best way to do that, because no matter where it is, where you're keeping it, you can look at it and quickly identify what power level that spring is. But again, despite how many times the color coding has been tried, there's always a problem. And that's the color code, the coating chipping off, and it gums up the gearbox or it flakes off and it becomes a problem. And that's where these are different.
Yes. So exactly like you mentioned, maybe 5 to 10 years ago, a few other companies, including ourselves, if any of you OG fans remember, back a long time ago, we had the gold and the red, and a few other companies did colored ones. But the problem was the coating process was always, not sufficient. And then after even 1,000 rounds, you had a bunch of paint flakes. And then the paint was also very metallic and hard. So it'd get into your piston and gears and scrub it up and all that. But hey, those days are gone. Now we got a special anodization process that we do here in Japan. These springs are also made here in Japan. And additionally, it's all heat treated. And oil treated as well. So these things are not going to be flaking off everywhere. They do wear off after about, just like minimally after about 10 to 20,000 rounds. And then, we'll show some overlays and pictures above, but it's very minimum. You can't even tell that it's out there. And then when we did an inspection after 10,000 rounds of the gearbox, there was almost 0 particulate, nothing in the gearbox, and any tiny little thing that was in there, it was very malleable. So it had no effect on the piston or gears.
So despite the slight change in color, there's no change in performance. So these are as consistent as we've always expected MS springs to be.
Yes, absolutely. They're the same great springs that we've always had. All of them have the meters per second or MS rating from 90 to 135, as you can see. And all that is, if we're going to talk in FPS, that's a plus or minus 10 FPS on a 300 millimeter barrel on a standard, carbine length gun.
Using .20s.
0.20 gram BBs. And yes, so that's why we have these different colors, because you can't always get that perfect FPS that you want, because some people have longer guns, shorter guns, different solid air volumes and all that. So that's why we have color coded. So hey, maybe I want my gun to be 300 FPS, 350 FPS, but I have a 400 millimeter barrel, like AK style. So I'm like, I don't know exactly which to get, because everyone's gun is different. So maybe I'll just buy the 100 and the 110 and go from there. And then you can easily identify them when you have them in a case like we have here. Unlike in the past where all the springs are either gray, silver, or black. And you're like,
And then we all do that thing where we're sitting and
you're like
checking the tension.
You're like,
is this
one's a little harder or softer?
Is it the 90? I don't know. And then you really, especially before quick change spring guide, quick change spring guide gearboxes, like you'd put one in and you test it, and then find that it's the wrong one. And then that goes in another pile until you work through all 5. And you're like, wait, one of these must have been the right one, and you got to go back through again. So,
and then then you start cutting rungs, and which one was it? Those days are gone. That's all we want to say here. So, it's all here, easy to understand, and it's still the same great performance with almost no wear and tear. Even after 10,000, 20,000 rounds, they're fantastic, and we'll check them out. But hey, we got guns like this where you got the quick change spring system that comes straight out of the back, and you just take it out. And then whenever it comes out, you just put in another one. You can easily change the spring without getting confused of what FPS you want it to be.
And with how common quick change springs are now, many people are going from outdoor to indoor play and changing their FPS often. So buying multiple springs to do a variety of game types, it's really beneficial, rather than having to isolate these springs in their own containers that are labeled, keeping them in a storage container where you can quickly tell at a glance, like, there's my blue one, that's my 110, I'll throw that in.
Especially, I would say, in the US and like Canada, where it's okay to have multiple springs on the field after you chrono, as long as you re-chrono, of course, for people that want to go from CQB to a long range, or even some fields that have the class system now, right? Going from one class to another with no MED, or using full auto versus semi. So this gives you that chance to quickly, on the fly, switch your FPS to what you desire. All right, so thank you guys for your time again. We'll check you out next time.
ご視聴ありがとうございます。新商品やパーツ組み込み動画はこちら。
And if you guys are looking for cool gameplay and entertainment content, don't forget to check out our international channel right here. Don't forget to subscribe. Yay!